All right. Good afternoon. This is the Wallace Way podcast, and we're coming midday. Well, not midday, 2 o'clock, and just dropping some more premium content. And today I got a very special guest, a very timely brother, doing great work. Just a super interesting guy. So I want everyone, to welcome Mr. Larry Calhoun. How we doing today, boss?
Doing great, man. Appreciate the offer to come on and invite, man. Thank you so much.
Nah, man. Thank you. You are definitely one of my top feeds in on Twitter. So basically, give an introduction and a rundown of what exactly do you do?
So basically, I do something called spat news, which I do a sector of news that I'm breaking news as it happens. They call it spat news, and so I started doing this about I want to say April. As I was kind of like a lot of other people, I was furloughed from my regular job.
Okay.
And I've always followed Alan Henney, which a lot of people know about in the DMV for
Hmm.
breaking news. And it inspired me what he was doing, getting a lot of incidents out that are not normally covered in our local news. They just don't have the time, things like that, to cover every single incident. So it inspired me to kind of do my own feed. And right after, unfortunately, I was shot myself. I started taking it to another level, and I said I'm gonna do, a serious feed, and I named it DC Real Time News.
Yeah, we're gonna touch on that unfortunate shooting a little later on. But so spat news, and is this something new, or like is this something relatively new, or just an older thing due to the social media, internet, Twitter having instant access
Um,
to stuff?
I think spot news. I'm not sure how old. I think people have been doing spot news for a while. I mean, most of the people that do it, they're old radio and scanner people, and that goes back generations. People
Sure.
sitting around listening to radio and scanners, and so those are the people counted that are really into the spot news. Is the ones that really listen to the scanner traffic and radio traffic. And if you're doing a feed, I think, like I said earlier, like Twitter, for instance, it's a live feed, and so it helps with breaking news on the spot.
Okay.
You
Right.
can get it out faster than any local news station, definitely, unless it's a major incident. Even still, you're going to get it out faster because you're on Twitter. You're just going to drop it.
Yeah, no, Twitter is the instantaneous of Twitter makes it so appealing. I can see why people don't like it, and I can see why people do like it. Especially you think about
Mhm.
something like breaking news or something like sports, and when sports drops, cause like imagine if the Magic Johnson HIV um, news story broke on Twitter, like you know what I mean? Like it would be massive. It was already massive, but
Right.
it would happen so quickly and people would just go bananas with it. So moving on,
Well, it's true.
so you basically cover a lot of DC local news, and unfortunately in our area there's a lot of crime. It's just between Baltimore and DC is, I mean, we're pushing. It's going to be at least 500, right? It's going to be 500 murders in just this little bit of area, 45 minutes apart. And like what why isn't the local media covering these stories?
I honestly don't have a true answer for that without being political, and I try to be in the middle with politics, but um, I mean, when it comes to local news, they're corporately owned. So the facts is that a lot of journalists may want to cover stuff, and they're just not allowed to. That's I think that's just the facts, and that's why I will always remain independent.
Mm,
Because you just have the freedom to cover, what you want to cover.
right, right.
You even look at music as independent artists. It's just the same difference. You're just not controlled. And I'll always love Prince talking about being an independent. He's one of my favorite artists.
Oh,
And
he's
but
the man.
uh,
Remember when he had the he typed slave
slave on his
on his
face,
beard?
yes,
Yeah.
yep, yep. So I mean, he was preaching about the importance of that. Master P as well. So
Yes,
I
yes.
don't know why it's not covered more. People being killed, whether they're out in the street up to no good or innocently.
Right, right.
Those are still lives that need to be covered, because those are people, we got young guys in the street, and unfortunately they killed. Those are lives that could have been saved somehow if we reached them.
Mm.
We got like a lot of young guys out here we need to reach before it gets to that stage of something happening. So I'm not sure why that's not a bigger awareness thing for whether the media or city government or the federal government for that matter.
No,
It should be, because
no, 1,000%. Sorry to cut you off, but it's like, when you look at the news, especially around here, we've had these pillars in the DC area, because DC's always been DC. It's the nation's capital. It's always, it's DC. So we've had people like Bruce Johnson. He just recently retired. The great Jim Vance. These guys were pillars of not only the community, but of the news cycle. And then now when you see it, it's just so, the news literally only covers election stuff or Trump or Biden. Like it's not really local news. It's just stuff that I could get from CNN. So it's almost like, why would I even watch it? You know what I mean?
no, it's very true. It's a lot of personality news now. It's a lot of just personality, some fluff stuff, and I respect a lot of the journalists. Like I said, I'm friends with a lot of them, but it's not a lot of hardcore news anymore. And you just name drop some of the legends that I grew up as a youngster watching, especially Jim Nance and Bruce Johnson. I watched both of them as a kid, so I have so much respect for them. And they were serious journalists, definitely. So I think it's just got away from some of that, definitely. Paul Wagner is one of my favorite. He do a lot of independent investigative journalism, and I think he's retired now, but he's one of my favorite as well. So yeah, I wish he'd get back to that, but I'm not sure what it's going to take, because the body counts is not moving that needle, unfortunately. I mean, Baltimore alone, they just hit 300 murders yesterday. I mean, it's for the 6th straight year. I mean, so I'm not sure what more it needs to take. It's crazy.
It's literally insane. Like I said, I grew up about 15, 20 minutes from Baltimore, and it's actually one of the most scenic, beautiful cities in the
very underrated city.
It is very underrated, beautiful. I went to Seattle a couple years ago, and I was like, to me, this is what Baltimore could be. Like, it's that beautiful. But the inner harbor, the way the geography works. But I mean, dude, some of the violence is just insane. You just can't even fathom some of this stuff. And it's interesting because, Wire is probably my favorite TV show ever.
Yes.
And everything that on the Wire showed came to fruition in a scary way. Everything the cops being crooked, the politicians being crooked, it's such just a insane thing. But Baltimore is a beautiful place. It's a really
it is.
Sound.
Half of my family's in Baltimore, so I always have a heart for Baltimore. Definitely, it's a different monster there than I think DC. I think the crime is more organized as well.
Yeah, it's I'm just praying for everything. They got a new mayor, so that's he's a young cat, so that should be interesting.
Yes, I have a cousin that actually works directly with him. One of my little cousins that work for the city. So yeah, I'm hoping they come up with some good plans, definitely, to get things moving in a different direction as far as the murders and whatnot. I know there's other things in the city, but that's just one big thing that sticks out. That's a negative, unfortunately.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's kind of piggyback on the unfortunate incident that happened with you. And it was, like I said, once again, prayers up and the recovery's going good. You look good. You're doing your thing. So that's all positive. So how did all that unpack all that? How did that all go down?
So we go back to July the 16th. July the 1st, I actually came off a furlough, started back working. And I'm 2 weeks in, and I'm literally at home from when the pandemic first happened at the end of March to July. And then 2 weeks in, I literally leave my home. I get 3-4 blocks away. So I'm in my community, and a single shot rang out. Wow. Come through my driver's door, struck me in the arm. My arm collapsed. So I heard the shot. It's pretty loud.
Mm-hmm.
But my arm collapsed and I realized I'm hit. My arm was
Mm-hmm.
broken instantly.
Wow.
So I'm grabbing the car wheel because I'm getting ready to wreck at that point, and pulling the shopping center and get some help. So it was a crazy situation to be in, and they end up getting the video to see kind of what happened because I didn't even see the car. I didn't know what happened. Everything just happened so fast. So I had nothing for police wise. I'm just like, yeah, it was a thing, it was a shot rang out and I'm hit. So I didn't see nothing. But they
Mm.
saw a car and they think there's a crowd of people on the side of the road. They think they were targeted and I'm just caught in crossfire, which makes sense because I don't have no beef. I had no beef in probably 30 years or so. I stay to myself, work hard. That's it. So
No doubt. No doubt.
it's just unfortunate. And we hear about this so much though, kids being, hit or killed with unintentional bullets. So I happen to be one of those that just be in the wrong place heading to work, honestly. So
Wow.
it's crazy. You can be minding your business, doing the right things, and harm can still come to you. It just can.
Man, that's such a blessing. You're good, brother. That is such a blessing. We need you out here. You're doing just incredible um underground work, and it's not even underground really because you have a huge following. So it's people understanding that it's a different side of news and it's a different side of our area. I think a lot of
Mhm.
people outside of our area literally think DC is like the White House, the Capitol, the monument, and it's like, yo, those are like a a little portion of it, but it's a city in here. There's regular people who they don't, like what happens in the Capitol or the monument doesn't affect them at all. Like it's
I was gonna say, and I got upset when they had the big march. The Trump supporters had came a couple of weeks ago,
right.
and someone got stabbed down there multiple times. I had put that out, but all the focus from the local media literally was on
Hmm.
that somebody was stabbed. But we also had like 4 or 5 shootings throughout DC that same day, and none of those were covered.
It's
So I was just like, how we focus on just, this march, and we knew that was going to be a bunch of
we knew,
craziness.
we knew that was
But
going to be a shit
we
show
also,
from the beginning.
yeah, but those folks are going to leave. These people that live here in residence and have chaos going on in the community, that should be the focus because those are permanent residents. So I don't think the focus goes on enough on the people that uh, live in the city.
No, 1,000%, and it's so unfortunate, and it's probably always been like that. Probably even before we were born. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but it's nah, man, it's just insane. And so moving forward, 2021, what are some changes that you would like to see to sort of curtail some of the violence, or kind of it needs because DC was pretty, last couple years was pretty good, and then this year it seemed like it got out of control.
Yeah, it's a major spike. I try to pay attention to the analytics and the statistics to know kind of what's the difference, whether there's an increase in things or not. This year, for some reason, excuse me, I don't know what's going on with the carjackings. I mean, if you notice, Allen is putting out 4 or 5 carjackings. I don't even be covering those because there's so many. But
Yes, yes.
there's a major increase, and I'm not sure what that is. I don't know if that's organized or what the heck, but that's really bad because that's a huge public safety issue. If people can't, you're going to deter people from driving in the city. Then you're affecting economics, people spending their money in the city, things like that. So I think that's really a focus that the city needs to figure out, because
A
that's going to
thousand.
really deter people from coming in the city if their safety is an issue.
Sure, 1,000%. And when I see these carjackings coming over the wire, it's like, no offense, but these cars ain't even like Benzes and Beamers. These are like
Mhm.
Nissan Stanzas, and I'm like, why? What's the whole logic in carjacking a Nissan Stanza unless you just joyriding? But then
Right,
you
right.
can steal it, like, you know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't need to carjack someone to do that.
Well, I mean, the old thing was always, getting rid of it for parts and all that, the chop shop. So
Chop it
that
up,
could
right?
be, that's why I say it could be organized. I don't know. And I never known DC to have a big car theft ring like that, but it could be something because Baltimore's having the same issue. They just announced, I think they arrested like 12 or 13 people. So yeah, it's going on in a different cities. So that's kind of a new wave thing to me. I've never even known it was that bad.
Wow.
But
Yeah,
it's a
that's
major increase.
no, that's insane. But yeah, I'm this isn't New Jersey. I don't know why they're starting to do this down here, right? This is, I know New Jersey. Remember the movie New Jersey Drive?
Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that was they was joyriding and doing that stuff. No, but so like what else? Anything else for 2021 that you could see as a trend that you
Uh,
want to see trend down or trend up or
well, I think one of the most important things, because I think this year was the year that um, police maybe lost some of that leverage to engage in the community. I think that trust
Mhm.
is there's a big divide in the trust, and I think they have an opportunity to try to get that trust back, because you're not going to have safety as a whole if you don't have the community working, with police and whatnot. So, you have these incidents that happen for whatever reasons, whether it's bad training or bad apples in departments. Obviously, we know not all police are bad. So,
Mhm.
um, the reform and whatnot, I think that's great. The training, any job you go to, there's going to be policies and procedures, and the employees are held to that. So I think that's how you gain the trust back from the community, is you reform some of those policies and procedures, and when you have incidents happening, that you're holding people accountable to that, and the community can respect you on that.
Now, thousand.
Because you always have incidents, unfortunately, but people, I think the community just want to make sure that people are held accountable when they do happen. And I respect that and understand that. So that needs fixing alone. It's
That
just
does.
that community and police engagement thing. Because I hate kind of seeing that divide, because we're not going to get anywhere and be able to fix no problems if the community is going against the police. Like, that's never going to work.
Yeah, like you said, there has to be some accountability and some togetherness, and it's tough. It's tough. 2020 was definitely a
Mhm.
year of discontent on many levels, from the election to COVID to the police stuff. It's just this is a year for the ages. We will be talking about this
No, it's
20,
true.
20, 30 years from now. So you know what? Just a quick. I want to do a quick question. You being a lifelong DC fan, not DC fan, but DC resident. Any chance we get statehood in 2021?
I don't see it happening in 2021, only because I understand the legislative process of, the Democrats controlling the House and the Republicans controlling the Senate. So with that divide there, it's not going to be able to take place, because Republicans are just not supporting it at the moment. But if you had Democrats being able to control both houses of Congress, then sure, it could happen. But right now, we're going to go into having a split, you know, divide, and it's just, I don't see it getting passed right now.
There you go. It's a good one. You know
Welcome,
what?
Alan. Welcome.
Yeah, we have a special guest. As Larry likes to call him, the king of breaking news in the DC area. We have Mr. Alan Henney. Good afternoon, sir. How are we doing today? You're on mute. You're on mute. Well, once we get Alan's microphone working, he does breaking news, not communications. You hello? You got to press the mute button. This is what happens when you do live TV, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, no, Larry, that is just an interesting thing, man. You had an eventful 2020, and like I said, I just wanted to thank you so much, man, for your work and keeping us informed of what's going on, and just keep up the good work, man, and stay safe out there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
So let me see. I'm gonna give Alan a couple more seconds to see if he can unmute himself. Well, you know what, Larry? Quick question: like, is this spat news big around the country and like other major cities?
Spot news is very big around the country. I've started following other independent journalists all over the country, actually, just to try to link up and you know, throw things off of them, ideas and whatnot. But it is huge. The one thing that's been huge for a long time in LA, actually, that I've been following for a while before I even started doing this, is the police chases.
Oh, wow.
Those are kind of some of the same people that do, you know, what I do. They alert people when there's a chase going on, because of course in California the chases are just huge. Like, people literally have alerts on their phones and stuff whenever there is one, and they literally go to watch that stuff. It's not as big, you know, here on the East Coast, but
Right.
yeah, California, for some reason they love freaking police chases. It's unbelievable.
Man.
So yeah, you have people in literally every state that do spot news, though. It's big.
Wow, that is dope. I mean, California car chases. I mean, I don't know if it peaked or started, but when OJ went on the run, that was a
No,
massive moment.
that's true.
I mean,
Yeah,
could you
that's
imagine if we had
true.
Twitter then? Like, it would have just
Oh my,
collapsed.
yeah, it's really, really crazy. Well, I couldn't even, the way, like, so I was a kid, let's see, in the late 80s and early 90s, you know, when DC was having over 300 murders, almost numbers like Baltimore's having now. See, I
Mhm.
couldn't imagine myself doing what I'm doing during that time.
Right, right.
It would have been a full-time job. Even if I was in Baltimore now, it would be a full-time job, because that level, that volume of crime is kind of so high.
Mhm.
DC is, you know, we see 180, 182 murders, but it's not on the level, honestly, of some of these other cities. I can really admit that when we talk about Chicago and New
Chicago,
York,
right,
you
right.
know, their populations are bigger too, of course. So, I mean, ours could be high compared to our population. You know,
That's
it's
true.
not at a million. It's what, 700, 800,000 maybe.
That's a
So,
good
you know,
that's a good
182
point
could
on
be, you know, for us.
That's a good point. Like, when you talk about the percentages of the numbers, like if a place like Baltimore, the population only but what 400, 500,000. Like, it's not a massive city like a Philadelphia or Chicago that has
Right, right.
millions. Like, Chicago has what 8, 9 million people in it. It would just
No, it's true.
it would swallow this whole state up basically. Those
Yeah,
major
it's a
cities.
huge, huge city. Yeah, yeah.
You know, let's give Alan one more chance to see if he
Here. Hi,
hey,
guys.
hey, Mr. Henney, how we doing today, sir?
Thank you. Good to see
We
you guys in
good.
person.
Yes, good to see you, sir. You know what? This is a man that really needs no introduction, as Larry has called him. He is the king of breaking news in
Oh,
DC. Like, he created all this. He is the guru, the godfather of breaking news in
building up my
DC.
ego. It's nice to say, but no, it goes way back to days of people even before Pat Collins. You know.
There you go. There you go. So you know what, Mr. Henney, give me an introduction of how you got started in this whole thing.
Right? Like a lot of people like Larry, I was a Radio Shack enthusiast back in the CB era in the 70s.
Hold, one second, sir. Can you tell people what Radio Shack is? No, I'm joking.
But I guess we have a few minutes left. I'll try quickly. You know, Radio Shack had quite a following back in the 70s, in the height of the CB era. It was very popular with the techie people back then, who made a transition to computers. You know, the TRS series. Remember that?
Remember Tandy? Remember they had the Tandy?
Right, and all the other, you know, Realistic, and so that really hooked a lot of the people, and we're still very bitter about it today. You know, there's always a love-hate relationship with Radio Shack, but that was pretty much what it was that got many of us involved. And since then, of course, we've had the internet, which has been a huge explosion of like-minded people, no matter what you're interested in. And so I guess it was in the late 80s, early 90s, we had text pagers. Remember when those first came about?
Sure.
And you know, I was so envious. I was an intern at Channel 9 at the time. Here's an example right here. The old, this is actually, can you see it?
That's the SkyTel? Remember the SkyTel?
Yeah, this is, you know, just different carrier. But back when that was sort of like the Twitters of the late '80s, early '90s when that came out, and so we would get a group going of people with the service going, and we originally had one in the Washington area called Public Safety Network.
Okay.
And then it eventually got taken over by other breaking news network, but there've been a lot of them over the years, and that was essentially the Twitter of then, back in the late '80s, early '90s, into the 2000s, and somewhat today. There are a few hold-ons still that use them, and people, a lot of the things that you see on Twitter are a holdover from the old days of the pager.
No, that's what's up. So you guys basically created, in a sense, you created your own networks with the pagers.
Right. And in the old days, it used to be mostly firemen, people interested in public safety, some police officers, radio enthusiasts. And now the thing with Twitter is it's just opened it up. Like Larry was saying, it's just phenomenal the outreach and the people that contact us now, right? Larry, we got people who are, a lot of people write to us every day. I hear gunshots. I hear a helicopter over the house. Why are there all these police cars and a fire truck down the street? And people are very concerned about what's going on in their neighborhoods.
Sure.
And they're not getting that answer typically these days from the corporate media, which has been pretty busy with bigger stories. So they're depending on us. The Prince of Petworth, that guy's a one-man news operation. He's incredible. You know how many?
Prince of Petworth, that's his name? That's his screen
name?
name?
Have you seen him on Twitter?
I have not.
Huge following. Originally it was just Petworth, but he expanded quite a bit.
He's got a huge following.
He has like enormous following, doesn't he, Larry? I mean, it's like, and we got a retweet from him.
Yeah, he's got over 100,000 easy.
Wow. The Prince of Petworth.
Definitely. He got nothing but respect from me.
And he's one man. He's not like the Washington Post. There's an army of local reporters. So it just shows you, if you are, you get out there and you get your name out there and you work hard at it, you can make a difference in distributing information to people who need it or want it.
No, 100%. So after you started doing that, like, what kind of, let's fast forward it to like current time, 2019, 2020. What trends are you seeing in the crime data and the news data, the underground news, that is interesting?
I think Larry touched on it. Of course, carjackings. Back in the late '80s, early '90s, we had a lot of homicides, and we don't really have that spike of homicides right now. I mean, they've gone up, but it isn't like the crack days. But what's interesting, I find too, is the carjackings. And during the pandemic, especially, a lot of people have been trying to argue that it's the pandemic, people need money. These carjackings are not about the money. It's necessarily. It's something more is going on here. These guys are not. You go into 7-Eleven, steal money, or Safeway and get food, but you do not go around carjacking just for fun for a few hours and dump the car. So I think there's a lot more to this that we're really, a lot of us aren't cognizant of.
Yeah, like I was telling Larry earlier, some of these are like carjackings for like Toyota Corollas, like not a car that is you would, you know what I mean? It's not a BM, a Benz, or a Lexus or nothing. It's a Corolla. It's like,
right.
What do you really need in that? Unless unless you're joyriding it.
That is often the case, I think. But one thing too, it's opportunity is one big part of it. And another thing is that not only opportunity, it's a matter of intimidation. You got these guys who will bump into you. And they, oh no, I got in a car accident. So you go out to exchange information, and guess what? You're muted with two guys, and they're carrying guns. Not just guns, they're carrying rifles, machine guns with a drum attached to it. It's a matter of intimidating you to get out of your car, and they're taking it because the other car is running out of gas, or something like that. So it's, a lot of people blame the video games, and you know which video game we're talking about, and I don't know.
COD, Call of Duty, and you can't not deny. We all played video games growing up, but our video games were like, my video games were like Mario Kart, Zelda, fantasy shit. Like, if you didn't want to Like the whole
Asteroids, Space Invaders,
right.
Pac-Man.
The whole idea was to like save the princess. Like, okay, but
Right.
now when you had games like Grand Theft Auto and
Yep.
you
All the
have
way up to
Call of Duty.
Yep. So I guess the question is, though, unfortunately, a lot of these young men are growing up unsupervised with no parents watching them.
It's a very interesting time, and I pray for everything, pray for everybody. It's a beautiful city, a beautiful town, and I understand crime is going to happen because that's a human. When you're just dealing with human nature, there's going to be some type of friction. There's just friction in a lot of stuff. There's friction in politics. There's friction in sports. There's friction in life. I had friction with my mortgage company. No, I'm joking. But it's still there's a lot of friction. But I just hope we can really come to an understanding and agreement and just chill out some. Like we all just need to chill. 2020 has shown us we need to chill out.
We need some oil and to reduce the friction.
Well, there you go. Viscosity breakdown, right?
Yeah, well said.
No, man, no. But you know what, Alan? It is such a pleasure. I know you. We had some technical difficulty issues, and I would love to get you guys back, and I hope you would join again. But it's just been a pleasure chatting with you. You have a great following on Twitter, and I'm always going to stay tuned. You're one of the few people that I get notifications from when something pops off.
I'm flattered. Thank you for having us on. You're quite an inspiration to us too. Someday you got to get us on like Oprah did for Dr. Phil.
Oh man, you took it there, man. Good old Oprah and Dr. Phil. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You can make us our own crime show.
Hey, listen, we can holler at Netflix. They got the money. We can get it done.
You remember City Under Siege? Are you old enough? Fox 5 used to have every night after 11 o'clock news.
I don't know.
Back in the 90s or early 80s, it was a show locally produced about crime. Very interesting.
It was City. I mean, I'm sure it was on. I'm sure my parents are watching. I was just probably too young.
City Under Siege. Yeah.
I do remember. Speaking of old time newscasters, I do remember the Sports Machine though with George Michael.
Right. Oh, yeah.
That was because that was kind of before Sports Center really popped off. So we didn't. You wouldn't know the sports scores from around the country without knowing. You know what I mean? It wasn't the internet, or it wasn't Sports Center. Wasn't really popping like that. So
well said.
No, George Michael, great guy. Anyways, Alan, thank you so much. I know you're super busy. Larry, thank you again. Really appreciate you fellas, and we'll definitely chat again.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
Awesome. And by the way, both of you guys have a great, glorious holiday too.
Oh, you too. Thank you.
Yep.
Bye-bye.